everyone. This is Coach Kat. Welcome to today's weekly live training with Roundtable breakout sessions where you receive real-time training for highly sensitives in business and leadership to make everything easier. Today, we're focusing on filling your own HSP leader tank to prevent being tanked. It's my distinct pleasure to hand it over to Heather Dominick, founder of businessmiracles.com, who since 2010 has been training highly sensitive entrepreneurs and leaders from around the world. Welcome, Heather.
Welcome to our weekly training roundtable. So thrilled to be here with each and every one of you. As Coach Kat mentioned, we are here today to focus in on the topic of filling your own HSP leader tank to prevent being tanked. Filling your own HSP leader tank to prevent being tanked. As always, the team will be adding significant notes on today's training topic in the chat for you, and especially for those of you who are more visual learners. Let's start with a recap for those who were involved in Intuitive Planning Day this past February, and an introduction to what we mean when we are using the phrase being tanked. So start by writing that down, being tanked. During Intuitive Planning Day this past February 2025, during the very first session, I introduced this concept, not a concept created by me, of being tanked. You can imagine two tanks of water side by side, connected by a tube at the bottom. One side is the 80%er, the non-HSP. The non-HSP who tends to squash down their emotions. By squashing down their emotions, or each time they squash down their emotions, it's pushing down the water so that the water then overflows through the tube connecting the two tanks at the bottom to your tank, which then rises up until it is completely overfull, overwhelmingly overflows the other side. So as HSPs, we are the other side. Water overflows our tank. It looks like we are overly emotional. It looks like we as HSPs are not handling things well. Yet in reality, it is the other person suppressing their emotions, and we as HSPs taking on those emotions until our system, our nervous system, our tank is literally over full. We cannot hold anymore. So for today's topic, this is about filling your own tank to put the stopper in your tank so others cannot overflow you. Let's write that down. So others cannot overflow you. Otherwise said, so others cannot overwhelm you. How we create the stopper as HSPs. To do that, let's first look at what prevents us from creating the stopper in the first place. And let's write that down. What prevents us from creating the stopper in the first place? So first of all, this leads us to look to our top 12 HSP shadows, but specifically the shadow of over-responsibility. From last week's May 14th weekly training roundtable, where we talked about staying in action with your intuitive planning process, myself and Coach Kat shared the story about Kat coming to the Business Miracles community almost 5 years ago being a new mom, being an untrained HSP. And as part of her untrained HSP tendencies, feeling the need to control everyone else's emotional experience. This is very common for us as HSPs as part of that shadow of over-responsibility. The untrained, highly sensitive nervous system will equate being able to feel others' emotions to being responsible for those emotions. That is you being tanked. From April 30th's weekly training roundtable, where we talked about HSP self-care as a revolutionary choice, and maybe take a moment just to write that date down if this is a weekly training roundtable that you want to go back and review, because it's in your online learning center. So again, that's April 30th, weekly training roundtable, where we talked about HSP self-care as a revolutionary choice. When we are in consistent resistance as HSPs, it's as if our nervous system is in a constant state of distress. So now we're talking about the shadow of over-responsibility would prevent us from creating the stopper. Adding to that is consistent resistance. This would prevent us from creating the stopper. That resistance is as if our nervous system is in a constant state of distress. This is related to the HSP shadow of overprotection. Again, the mind will try to convince you that to protect yourself from the possibility of overwhelm is something that's helpful or beneficial, when in truth, it has your nervous system in a state of resistance. We can become so used to this shadow of overprotection, it's as if it becomes the norm, until it gets to the point where our body will alert us. It will alert us to that distress of the nervous system on constant high alert, AKA the shadow of overprotection. The body will alert us by getting sick, which then often leads to history informing the present, overprotection, health issues as a defense, which also becomes an HSP normal. I can't do X, Y, and Z because I am sick. Again, over-responsibility, overprotection prevents us from creating the stopper. So, breath in and let it out. How do we flip the switch? How do we create the stopper to being tanked as HSPs? 3 steps. Step number 1, nourishing, nurturing self-care, not soothing. Nurturing self-care as a revolutionary choice. This means you proactively prioritize the activities, the people, the schedule that nurtures you, versus soothing as a need to recover from being tanked. Step 2, choose nurturing self-care based on your HSP type. You can review the April 23rd weekly training roundtable to revisit your HSP type. And let's write that down so you have that date and can go back to your online learning center to that April 23rd weekly training roundtable. As part of that roundtable, I spoke about wash, rinse, rest, repeat. The emphasis on taking time for rest in support of being in action. We referred to this as restful action because, as I taught on that weekly training roundtable, it's not either or. Either I'm resting or I'm in action. But when you take a proactive, nurturing self-care approach, it is both and. It is rest that shifts and changes the way that you're able to be in action when you're taking into consideration your HSP type, restful action, versus rest as overprotection. Breath in and let it out. Step 3, practical self-assessment in real time. Self-assessment is self-care. Write that down. Self-assessment is self-care. For those of you who are working with a current intuitive plan in the final weeks as we head into June Intuitive Planning Day, this is a beautiful direct dot connect to Q2, health, physical, emotional, financial, using self-assessment to support yourself with physical care, emotional care, financial care, all to prevent yourself from being tanked. Using self-assessment as self-care to fill your own tank, helping you to be proactive versus reactive. Recap, 3 steps. Nurture as self-care, not soothing. 2, choose nurturing self-care based on your HSP type. 3, practical self-assessment in real time. Here's a bonus. Taking actions on your intuitive plan week after week. For those of you currently working with an intuitive plan, following through on these final weeks. For those of you about to enter into your first intuitive planning day, preparing, beginning to consider the possibility of intuitive weekly actions as a top priority. This is key. Now, again, as mentioned last week on our training roundtable, HSPs have a tendency to drift off as we approach the quote-unquote finish line. Pushers, those who tend towards the pushing coping mechanism, you've exhausted yourself before you get to that finish line and you fall off just before you're there, including, again, the possibility of the body putting a stop to the distress. Those of you who tend towards the hiding coping mechanism, we get towards that finish line and then suddenly there's an anxiety freak out of what will it actually mean to cross this finish line. Consistently using the 4Q weekly focus and update week after week is self-care. It is restful action. It is rest versus overprotection. It is filling your own tank. And it is how we don't get tanked. Is it a process? Yes. Is it muscle building over time? Yes. That is why we have a 4Q intuitive planning day every 4 months. Is the process and the practice worth it? Yes, because the end result is that you can be with another person as they suppress their emotions and attempt to unload their emotions onto you, and your tank is stopped. You don't take it on, you don't take it in, you don't overflow with overwhelm. Follow the 3 steps, take them seriously, lean in to the process, call on the community. Between now and June Intuitive Planning Day and every week following. Breath in and let it out. Gorgeous. With that, I'm going to hand us over to Coach Nicole for a program success tip for the week before we move into roundtables. Nicole, welcome.
Hi, Heather. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you so much.
Beautiful. Having a little technical difficulty, so bear with me for a second. So Heather, what you shared had me really thinking about the differences between us as highly sensitives and the other 80%, and really thinking about overwhelm and things that might prevent us as highly sensitives from creating the stopper to keep us from being tanked. So you may have noticed already that our Mighty Networks forum has been rolling out a new update, including having you select a reaction emoji rather than a simple cheer or a like. So the socialized reaction for 80%ers, this might not be a big deal, just a fun little update. And for us as highly sensitives, we know that it is always a both and. So, maybe we are the heart eyes emoji and the brain melting emoji and so many of the other emojis all at once. And yes, this is a fun little feature. And we know that our tendency is to have reactions to change. So this is a fabulous opportunity to revisit our training on reactions to change. And I'll have the team add that link in the chat for you. So Mastering Reactions to Change, ORNT 1105. And this is available to the entire community, all program levels, Foundation, Core, HSL+, HSL++, as a foundational training. In fact, it is the very first training found in the HSP Success Leadership track. And especially with the energy of transitions that we're feeling as we move into the summer months in the Northern Hemisphere. We've got the end of the school year, graduations, completions, new beginnings, moving homes, transitioning into jobs, transitioning out of jobs. And because for the 80%, that kind of a transition might just be the simple thumbs up or heart emoji. But for us as highly sensitives, it is that whole big palette of emotions with the heart eyes and the brain exploding and the scream face and everything else. So wonderful, beautiful opportunity to revisit that foundational training. And from there, Heather, I will hand it back to you.
Amazing. I so appreciate this connection, Coach Nicole, to that foundational training of reactions to change, because what I was hearing as you were sharing is the ways that we tank ourselves as HSPs. It doesn't even have to involve another person. All it has to involve is something like a Mighty Network forum and like, oh my gosh, now I have to choose from all these emojis. And just that can like get us tanked, right? Or again, something like a large life transition. So I really, really appreciate that connection. That when it comes to filling our own tank, it's not just about others suppressing their emotions and our nervous system taking them on, but what are the ways we are doing that to ourselves? Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. All right, beautiful. From here, let's shift into roundtables to be able to dive more deeply into all of it, always with the intent to support ourselves in operating optimally as HSPs so that we can be out in the world taking action. With that in mind, with that in heart, let's go into roundtables for the next 25 minutes. Team, when ready. All right, let's take... I can't tell if we're set or not. So you know what? When all else fails, breathe. All right, let's take a breath in and let it out. Beautiful. Starting with this reflective question, this self-inquiry question. When it comes to filling your own tank, what will you put in place between now and June Intuitive Planning Day to support yourself with staying strong and steady, aka full tank? I'll repeat that. When it comes to filling your own tank, what will you put in place between now and Intuitive Planning Day to keep yourself strong and steady, aka filling your own tank? Take 1 minute to reflect. If helpful, hand on heart, and let your heart guide you. Amazing. Let's all take a breath in and let it out. 3 steps to not get tanked. Nurturing self-care. Some amazing inspired ideas shared in the roundtable that I was honored to be a part of. 2, choose nurturing self-care based on your HSP type. Those in my roundtable who received those inspired ideas, put them through the lens of your HSP type to support yourself in making choices for you. 3, practical self-assessment in real time. Bonus, stay consistent just between now and June Intuitive Planning Day. A bit of an experimental time frame. Other than that, join us in chat for Afterglow, and most importantly, share your takeaways on the forum as part of your weekly training roundtable master post. Other than that, many blessings, many business miracles. Fill your own tank now more than ever, and keep it simple. Until next time, and all the ways that I'll see you between now and then.